There are so many options when it comes to how a service is going to run from a security context. Obviously, this is a really big deal. We know there's custom service accounts. We know there's virtual accounts. In this nugget, we'll look at managed service accounts and group managed service accounts. This is a hands-on lab nugget, so feel free to follow along. The managed service account concept is really kind of smack dab in the middle of the custom service account approach and the virtual account approach. What I mean by this is we can create these managed service accounts and we have some granularity of control there, but we don't need to worry about password management. We'll have Microsoft change the password periodically behind the scenes, make sure it's good and complex. If you go into your server manager and you launch Active Directory users and computers, you'll notice that there is a container for your managed service accounts. Now, you might be tempted to come over here and start creating them, but the managed service accounts are actually going to be created and associated with your system and installed thanks to PowerShell. So on your DC NUG 1 machine, let's go over to the PowerShell ISE. And I've got a script for you that's going to walk us through what we would need to do to create and utilize a managed service account. So the first thing we want to do, of course, is do a file open. And in your documents folder, you can see I have a PowerShell script for you. This is also in your supplemental files. It's called group_man_service_account. Now notice, we are working with the managed service account first, and these are going to be great, but they're going to be machine specific. If you have a service account that you want to share between machines, that's when we get into the group managed service account concept. All right, so let's look at this first line. This first line is going to have us create a new Active Directory service account named MSA-NUG-SRV. And notice this switch is used to restrict this to a single computer because that's how these particular managed service accounts work. We'll run that one line and we create that new MSA NUGServe. If we slide over to Active Directory users and computers and we do a refresh, we should see that that service account is created over there. Awesome. So this isn't operable yet, though. We couldn't really use it. Let's go back into our PowerShell and see why. Notice we need to go ahead and add this AD computer service account for our DC NUG 1 machine that we're on and for the specific service account. So we create it and then we essentially add it to this computer identity that we're working with. So let's run that command. Notice there's a lot of steps here, and you're going to want to test things. So they give us a test AD service account. Let me click in that line and run this test. And sure enough, it says, hey, look, the managed service account with your name is not linked with any computer object in the directory. Wow, so now we've done the new AD service account, the add AD computer service account, and now we need one more step, and that's to actually full-blown install it, which will link it between the Active Directory and the computer object that we did in the previous step. So one more command, and now if we test this account, we'll see that it's true. I wanted you to see how the test AD service account is going to give us great detail on if there's a problem. Now, once we have this managed service account created, it would be very simple to assign it to a service. Let's create a dummy service once again, and let's go into the services applet. So we'll just do a search on SERV, and there it is, our services applet. And let's go down to that NUG service that we just created, double click it, go to the logon area and say, nope, you won't be using a local system account any longer. You're going to be using the service account that we just created. It began MSA, so you can just search on that. There's the service account that we created. Notice when you drop it in, it's going to specify your domain and it's going to append a $ at the end of the name of that service. That's all expected. We need to clear out the password information because that's going to be managed by Microsoft for us. And that's it. Say OK. It will grant that account the logon as a service right. No surprise there. And we now have that service running as yet another option, and that is a managed service account. But as we indicated, this is good for only this local system. What if we have an environment where we have a cluster of machines, literally 5 or 6 Windows Server 2016 systems, all functioning in a cluster to provide some valuable service to the network? We would want a managed service account for all 5 or 6 of those systems, and that's what a group managed service account functionality gives us. So let's go back over to our PowerShell ISE and let's take a look at how we would do the group managed service account approach. The first thing we need to do is create a key distribution center root key. This is going to be used for the group managed service account. Now, the issue here is this process takes 10 hours. Yeah, it takes 10 hours to create and then make sure propagation occurs to all of our servers in the domain. So what we've done here is a little trick. Instead of using what you would commonly use, and that's add KDS root key hyphen effective immediately, which would then have a 10-hour delay, we've done an effective time and we've subtracted 10 hours from the process so that this process basically occurs immediately. This is just a trick that we're doing in our lab environment so we can generate this information quickly. Once again, let me show you the command you would be using here in production. That would be add KDS root key, and then you would use the switch hyphen effective immediately. And then you would wait your 10 hours. But again, we don't have to do that in the lab. We're playing this trick, so this will work right away for us. Now what we're going to do is create a new AD service account. Notice the AD service account that we're going to create this time is GMSA NugServe. It's a name of our choosing. We're going to specify a DNS host name, and then we're going to indicate that the principals allowed to retrieve the managed password are going to be the group of computers called domain controllers. So there is how we create this account inside of Active Directory. What we're going to do next is we're going to give the remote server administration Active Directory PowerShell tools to the other machine we have in this lab called AppNug. This is going to allow that machine to install and utilize this group managed service account. And you would obviously do this for all of the servers that are going to need this account. So we're going to issue this command, and this command, by the way, is going to take some time to run. So I'm going to pause the video right here as this distribution of the appropriate Active Directory PowerShell tools takes place over to that AppNug system. So you gotta love video. After just a couple of minutes, it shouldn't take too long, you can see that we just had success installing those tools over on our AppNug system. Well, you know where we're going next. Go ahead and launch your AppNug in the hands-on lab, and what we're gonna do is log in over on that member server. To be perfectly clear now, what we're dealing with here is a member server named AppNug in the domain Nugget Lab. So what I'll do is from the Tools menu of Server Manager, I'll just go ahead and launch the ISE, yet another way we can launch that tool. And inside the ISE, I've got that same script for us. So if we do an open in our Documents folder, we should have that script that we were working with a moment ago over on DCNug1. If we scroll down in that script, we are going to see the commands that we're going to use in order to install and test that managed service account. This time, a group managed service account. So let me give us some more room here. Let me scroll down. There it is. So we're going to install the group managed service account here on this system. So we run that command, and we, of course, are going to want to test that command, just like we did earlier with our regular old managed service account. So we can see that's working great. Let's go ahead and create our dummy service. And then finally, let's go to that dummy service and let's make sure we can assign that group managed account. So from our Tools menu, I will launch Services. And in our Services applet, we will scroll down and we will find our NugServe service. We'll double click it, go to the logon area, choose this account, and browse. Notice we're browsing AppNug, so we wouldn't want to do that. We want to browse the nuggetlab.com domain. So I'm going to drop in the administrator and the password, the administrator name and the password for Nugget Lab. And now we can search the entire directory. And what we're searching for, of course, is something beginning GMS. Do a check name. And there it is. There's our group managed service account. We're going to say OK. We're going to clear that password. Notice once again, it is going to append the $sign at the end of our account name for the Nugget Lab domain. Say OK. It's going to grant the appropriate logon as a service right. Say OK once again. And now on this AppNug machine, we are using that group managed service account approach. So there are just so many methods for you to have a service running as an identity on the network. It's a hugely important topic. We know that there's the local system, local service, and network service accounts built in. We know we can create a custom account. We know there's the concept of a virtual account. And now we know about the managed service accounts and even the group managed service accounts. When it comes to running a service in the context of an Active Directory account, you now have many options at your fingertips. I hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.